Does your dog follow you from room to room the second you put your shoes on? Do they suddenly appear the moment you reach for your keys, even if you haven't said a word out loud? Most people chalk it up to routine, and sure, part of it is. But what's actually driving that behavior runs so much deeper than habit. Because if you don't understand what your dog is doing in those final minutes before you leave, you're missing one of the most emotionally raw things they ever do. We're going through 7 of them today, and a couple of them, especially the one about what your dog is actually doing with your scent, and the one that happens in the last 30 seconds before the door closes, are going to completely change the way you think about leaving your dog behind. Let's start with number 1. 1, they start monitoring you hours before you leave. Have you ever noticed your dog watching you from across the room? Not following you, just watching, way before you've done anything that looks like leaving? Most people assume their dog only reacts to the obvious signals. The shoes coming out, the keys leaving the hook, the jacket off the chair. So those long early stares get written off as the dog being bored, or just doing that thing dogs do. But here's what's really happening, and it starts much earlier than the front door. Dogs read departure routines with something close to obsessive precision. Not just the visible props, but the invisible ones. The pace of your footsteps through the kitchen. The rhythm of your morning shifting into something more purposeful. The way your attention goes somewhere else, even before your body does. They've mapped your entire leaving sequence, and the moment that sequence begins, sometimes hours before you leave, they're already tracking it. This isn't guesswork on their part. Research into canine social cognition, including work from behavioral scientists who study how dogs process human cues, consistently shows that dogs monitor owner behavior as one of their primary sources of environmental information. Their history alongside humans, stretching back tens of thousands of years, has shaped them into some of the most attentive readers of human behavior on the planet. Your leaving routine is a pattern, and once they've learned it, they can't unsee it. That's not your dog being needy. That's your dog being the most attentive creature in the room, reading a language you didn't even know you were speaking. And later, we're going to talk about what they do with all of that information in the final seconds before the door actually closes. That one's going to hit differently than you expect. 2, they follow your exact path around the house. Have you ever noticed that right before you leave, your dog isn't just nearby? They're shadowing your exact route. Every room you walk into, they're already there or right behind you, step for step. Most people read this as clinginess, or assume their dog is hoping for a walk, angling for attention before the house goes quiet. But here's what's really happening. This behavior, what canine researchers call contact seeking, isn't your dog unraveling. It's your dog doing something ancient and purposeful. In the wild, a departing member of the group was a meaningful event. One fewer body watching the territory, one fewer presence in the space, and the instinctive response, carried forward across generations, was to stay close to the one who was about to go, to extend the time of togetherness for as long as physically possible. Researchers who study domestic dog behavior, including scientists at University Canine Cognition Labs, have noted that contact-seeking spikes specifically during pre-departure cues. It's distinct from general anxiety. Your dog isn't falling apart. They're responding to a recognized signal with a specific, purposeful behavior. That's not your dog being dramatic. That's your dog spending every last second they have with you, because they don't know exactly when the next one is coming. And there's something connected to this. Something your dog does with their nose in these moments that most owners walk right past. We'll get there. And hey, if this is already changing the way you see your dog, hit that like button and subscribe. That's how we get these videos to more dog owners who want to truly understand what their dog has been trying to tell them. 3, they sniff you in a way they never do any other time. Have you ever been lacing up your shoes and felt your dog press their nose against your ankle, your hand, the cuff of your sleeve? Not urgently, not asking for anything, just quietly breathing you in? Most people think their dog smells something interesting on them, or is doing a routine check of wherever they've been. It barely registers as meaningful. But here's what's really happening. A dog's nose holds somewhere in the range of 300 million olfactory receptors, compared to roughly 6 million in humans. The world your dog moves through is, first and foremost, a world of scent. And right before you leave, researchers believe your dog is doing something that functions almost like committing you to memory. They're building the most detailed, current version of your scent signature they can, because that signature is what they'll carry while you're gone. Your smell isn't just comforting to them. To your dog, it is you. Studies on canine olfaction, including brain imaging research examining how dogs respond to familiar human scents, have shown that the scent of a known owner produces measurable calming effects, even in the owner's absence. Your smell reaches something in your dog's nervous system that your voice and your face cannot fully reach on their own. And here's where it gets deeper. The spot they choose to sniff isn't random. It tends to be wherever your scent is freshest, wherever you've just been. They're not checking on you. They're holding on to you. That's not your dog sniffing around. That's your dog holding on to you the only way they can. 4, they bring you something right before you go. Has your dog ever dropped a toy at your feet? Or stood at the door holding something in their mouth? Right as you're about to leave? Not bouncing around, not asking to play. Just placing it there, looking up at you. Most people see this as their dog lobbying for one last game, or trying to convince you to stay a little longer. But here's what's really happening. Dogs are deeply object-oriented during moments of high emotion. It's a pattern behaviorists observe across a wide range of situations, from excited greetings to moments of visible stress. When a dog brings you something as you're leaving, they're not pitching you a play session. They're doing something that functions as an emotional anchor. Some behaviorists describe this as displacement behavior. The dog has a strong feeling with no clear outlet, and the object gives that feeling a physical form. And here's where it gets deeper. It's often not just any object. Dogs frequently bring the thing they've been carrying most that week, the one that smells most like the house, most like the life you share. They're not asking you to take it. They're offering the one thing that brings them comfort, because some part of them hopes it does the same for you. That toy at your feet isn't a distraction. It's your dog saying, "Take something of mine with you." It's the closest thing to a goodbye gift they know how to give. 5, their body changes in ways you've never noticed. Have you ever really looked at your dog in the 2 minutes before you leave? Not at what they're doing, but at what their body is doing. Most people see a dog near the door and read it as either excitement or sadness. Big feelings, obvious signals. The tail tells you everything, and anything subtler just disappears into the background. But here's what's really happening. The moment your dog confirms you're leaving, a set of physical microsignals moves through their body that most owners never catch. Their ears shift, not fully flattened, but angled slightly back from neutral. The muscles around their eyes go soft. Their tail drops below its resting line, even if it's still moving. Slower now, less sweep in it. Their weight settles back toward their hindquarters. Individually, each one looks like almost nothing. A millimeter of ear position, a fraction of tail height. But together, they form a precise emotional signature that canine behavior researchers recognize as anticipatory stress. Distinct from fear, distinct from excitement, distinct from play. Foundational work in canine body language, including research on what are called calming signals and clinical behavioral assessments of dogs in emotionally loaded situations, has established that dogs have a specific physical vocabulary for this state. It isn't distress. It isn't happiness. It's something in between, the face of a creature bracing for an absence. That's not your dog being dramatic. That's your dog's entire body having a feeling they've never once been able to put into words. 6. They listen for you after the door closes. Have you ever wondered what your dog does in the 30 seconds right after you leave? Not an hour in, but in the immediate moment after the door shuts. Most people picture their dog trotting back to the couch or settling into their usual spot by the window. Out of sight, out of mind. We tend to assume dogs live so fully in the present that the moment we're gone, they've simply moved on. But here's what research has actually shown. In the immediate aftermath of departure, dogs don't wander. They orient. Studies using remote cameras to observe dog behavior after owners leave, research conducted in the context of understanding how dogs experience separation, document a consistent pattern. Dogs face the exit point. Some press their nose to the gap at the bottom of the door. Some stand at the exact spot where the owner's scent is strongest. They're not waiting passively. They're listening. A dog's hearing reaches frequencies far beyond what humans can detect. Researchers put the upper range at somewhere between 40,000 and 65,000 hertz, compared to our 20,000. That means your dog can track the sound of your footsteps outside, the engine of your car, your voice carrying from the street, long after you've left their visual field entirely. They're following your exit with every sense they still have access to. That's not your dog moping. That's your dog holding the line, staying with you for every second they still can. 7. In the last 30 seconds, they say goodbye in the only way they know how. What actually happens in those final 30 seconds before the door closes? Not the routine, the ritual. Has your dog ever done something so specific, so quiet in that moment, that it stopped you for just a second before you walked out? Most people are already somewhere else in those last moments. Keys, phone, one last mental run-through of everything they're carrying out the door. The dog is right there, and whatever they're doing gets absorbed into the background noise of leaving. But here's what's really happening in that moment. And this is what we've been building toward from the very beginning. Your dog has spent, as we've talked about, possibly hours tracking the signs that you're going. They've followed you room to room. They've memorized your current scent. They've read every small shift in your posture and your pace. And now they're at the end of everything they're able to do. They can't ask you to stay. They can't explain what the quiet house feels like. And so they do the only things left. They look at you, they stay close, and many of them make one final physical approach. A lean into your leg. A single slow lick to the back of your hand. A chin placed on your knee for just a moment before you stand. It doesn't look like much, but every one of those gestures is the same thing, translated into a body that has no other language for it. Attachment research on dogs, work that adapts the same frameworks used to study how human infants bond with their caregivers, has established that dogs form what researchers call secure attachment bonds with the people they live with. Your departure isn't a neutral event to your dog. It registers as an attachment disruption. And that final approach, that lean, that look, that quiet press of their body against yours, attachment researchers describe this as a proximity maintenance bid, a last attempt to keep the bond physically intact before it has to break. That lean weighs about as much as a breath, and it means, I know you're going. I just needed you to feel me one more time before you did. Your dog has never once thought of you as an owner, a provider, or someone who comes and goes. From the moment they learned your leaving routine, what they were really learning was this: that you are the thing this place is built around, and every goodbye is them counting the minutes until their whole world makes sense again.